Hello, class. This is Dr. Camarada, and I wanted to give you a brief presentation about the Have a Good Day exercise that you're going to be doing throughout the class. This is actually a very important assignment that has benefits that go far beyond simply completing a set of requirements for an academic class. Every business in the world, if they're going to be an ongoing concern, keeps a ledger of accounts. This ledger of accounts is used to establish what's going on, how the business is functioning economically, and how it's doing with its customers, and it serves as an end of the year record for how things have gone. The journal that you're going to be keeping in your Have a Good Day exercise is a record of your life. It's essentially your life ledger. It will enable you to recall and reconstruct past events. Sometimes it's tough to remember exactly what happened on what day, and when you get into the habit of writing things down and making a brief assessment, it's much easier to recall and reconstruct the events of your life as they happen. One of the most important aspects of this assignment is to help you identify what's known as keystone habits. I recommend that you read a very powerful book. It's called The Power of Habit, Why We Do What We Do in Life and Business. It's by Charles Duhigg, D-U-H-I-G-G. You can get it on Amazon. He talks about something called keystone habits. And keystone habits or routines that form the basis of much of our lives. We tend to be creatures of habit. We tend to repeat certain actions over and over again, and our habits essentially form who we are. Over time, these habits tend to solidify, and if we want real change, for example, with this assignment, if we want to be happier, the first step is to identify what our keystone habits are. And a keystone habit is something that you do on a routine basis that unintentionally carries over into other parts of your life. Keystone habits create structures that help other habits to flourish. They are routines on which other habits are built, sort of the foundation. They set off a chain reaction by creating what's known as small wins. In other words, you get a payoff for enacting a habit. Over time, the payoff may be diminished, and there may be consequences that reduce the value of the payoff. In other words, the cost exceeds the benefits. At one time, the benefits exceeded the cost, which is why we adopted the Keystone habit. However, as conditions change, people, being creatures of habit, tend to hold on to our habits, and we tend to ignore the shifting of benefits and costs, and we may be incurring more costs than benefits. And thus, our keystone habits are the essence of finding out how to make meaningful change in our lives. When keystone habits start to shift, they dislodge and remake other patterns so that real change is possible. Another benefit of this assignment is that you're going to be doing daily journaling. Doing a journal every day helps you to define how well you're living your life on your own terms. As an employee, you are essentially living your life on someone else's terms for the time at which you're at work and maybe some time afterwards when you're thinking about work. However, your daily journaling is a time for you to understand how well you're living your life based on what's important and what's meaningful. It's a chance for you to describe events that are really important for you in ways that you may not have thought of before. And it gives yourself, you give yourself some time for reflection on what matters most to you. So it's a timeout. It's a timeout for you to understand what's important, how that's important, what's going on, and enables you to look back on the events that have been happening and make an assessment. Are these events really adding to your happiness, or are they detracting from them? And the bottom line here is this is about you and your life. It's not about someone else's life. So your life and the context of everything that you're doing becomes the focus. So again, we go back to defining how well you're living your life on your own terms. Even though you live in a different contexts and you may have to bend to certain rules and be part of different organizations that have different cultures, in the end, you're living your own life. No one else is really living it for you unless you're in prison somewhere or you're a slave. And so, how well you're living your life on your own terms becomes visible through daily journaling. Another benefit of this assignment is that you can gain congruence. And congruence means that your thoughts, desires, values, actions, and outcomes are all aligned. It's when what you want is what's important. You think about what you want in terms of getting it, so you decide on an action, and then your action results in appropriate outcomes. So the focus here is on decisions. What decisions do you make among all these different elements? In other words, how do you decide what's important, what you really desire, what action you want to take, and how well your outcomes are occurring, and understand how your decision processes work. The goal here is to enable you to think, speak, and act with integrity, so you get alignment in your life. Many of us tend to not do this, especially when we adopt personas, when we function in different organizations. So integrity is a hallmark of congruence. Another benefit of the journaling assignment is emotional clarity. In fact, many students have experienced this, especially when they were working at a job that they didn't particularly care for, or they were living in a climate that was very fearful or was abusive. You can understand the source of pent-up emotions and thoughts, and it's a way of also detaching and letting go of the past, because you look at your events as you've written them down over several weeks, and you can just sort of let it go and see, experience what you experienced uh, during the event, see what happened, understand what happened from the record, and then you can understand what's driving perhaps your pent-up emotion, something you didn't feel at that particular time or something you didn't think at that particular time. Well, your journal is a way of integrating learning. It's a method that helps you to integrate the lessons from what really makes you happy. Writing it down increases memory and attention. This is why in my on-ground classes, I don't allow laptops, I don't allow cell phones. And if you want to take notes, it's paper and pencil or pen and paper. Writing it down forces you to engage with the material, so it increases your memory and attention to what's important. You are forced to target and ingrain what is really important based on your perceptions of what's going on around you. So your writing becomes an expression of values, which in the end is an expression of who you are. When you look back on this and spend some time in reflection on this series of events that you recorded, your subconscious mind can work out the problems in distinctive ways. In other words, the answer to getting greater happiness is not always logical, it's not always apparent. And so sometimes it helps to consider this situation that you're in over time and allow your subconscious mind to reflect on it, and perhaps you'll get an aha moment or work out the problem in steps incrementally and in ways that are appropriate just for you. You have your own method of solving problems, and everyone is different. However, when you sit down and look at this series of events that you've recorded, you can really integrate the learning in terms of what is going on and what's meaningful for you. Another benefit of journaling, especially journaling around what happiness and what's really driving happiness in your life, is increasing the amount of gratitude in your life. All of us tend to become lost in busyness and forget what makes our lives worthwhile. This is especially true for those of you who are in large organizations that are experiencing increasing pressures around having to do more work. And it's important to take a time out to define what it is that really brings us happiness. There's many benefits from this. it really gives us an emotional boost when we're more grateful for what our lives are all about. It can decrease our depressive symptoms, decrease stress, uh, increase feelings of relaxation, reduce toxic emotions, and just really increase overall happiness. When we look at our lives, really most of us are pretty well off. We don't live in very poor countries, although some of you may. Our lives are relatively stable, although that might not always be the case. However, what really makes our lives worthwhile is the little things. And so we tend to overlook those as we get wrapped up in the busyness of day-to-day living. So it helps to take a step back and say, what am I really grateful for? What am I thankful for in my life? What is supporting me? What's helping me to do what I need to do? And look out and say, boy, I'm really thankful that exists. And it changes a person's perspective from sort of zooming through life and getting wrapped up in busyness and forgetting that there are lots of little things that make up our lives. And these are the things that we really need to be thankful for. The goal here of this assignment is to find what in our lives we characterize as good days. So it's all really about you. It's about what you determine to be good days and figuring out strategies to get more of them. And so as a leader, you won't be able to lead anyone, or you will not be effective unless you understand what drives you, what's important to you, what your values are, and what really drives your happiness. People are drawn to those who are happy. They've found their own sources of happiness. They've become vibrant and alive. They're really charged about it. They're kind of infectious emotionally because they're really jazzed about living. They found what makes them happy, and they're happy to share that with others. So effective leadership starts with you, and it starts with this assignment. So I wish you good luck in the assignment. I think you'll find this to be useful, and keep these tips in mind as we move through the class.